been a while since our last 2D Mario. The new Super Mario Bros. Series was all we got for a while, and although I do like those games, by the time they'd run their course, they weren't exactly experimenting or coloring outside of the lines very much. Additionally, Mario Maker and its sequels kinda ended up superseding the need for more. Even if New Soup hadn't burnt itself out, the fans making a few million levels for it sure did. Ain't no way they could get another one of those out. The hurdle was obvious. How do you make a 2D Mario game that feels fresh? How do you escape the confines of the grass world, desert world, cloud world, and so on, the goombas, the koopas, and the bop-bas? Well, Super Mario Bros. Wonder answers by throwing pretty much everything at the wall. Every level tries something different, and while not every idea lands perfectly, it's an admirable effort. Not only do all of its levels tend to be a bit on the experimental side, but the Wonder Flowers found in every main level of the game completely warp the game into something else entirely. Released in October 2023, just a couple months ago, it's safe to assume that this will be the Switch's last Mario, and it's also the first time Mario, as well as Luigi, aren't voiced by Charles Martinet, who had done so since 1991, if you count the promotional Mario in real-time thing that was used at trade shows, but more notably since Super Mario 64. In many ways, Mario Wonder is a pretty typical Bing Bing Wahoo, much the same as New Soup but a little faster paced. Mario, or the other characters, Luigi, Peach, Daisy, Toad, Girl Toad, Yoshi, and Nabbit, run, jump, wall jump, spin jump, which is slightly more vertical and capable of breaking blocks from above and bouncing off of certain otherwise damaging hazards, hit blocks, stomp turtles, and grab flagpoles, with the only new move in their arsenal being a small twirl taken from Mario Galaxy that can extend jumps a very tiny bit. Character choice is irrelevant until it comes to Yoshi and Nabbit, easy mode characters who can't be killed by most enemies and obstacles. With Yoshi having the perk of a flutter jump for a bit of added control and distance in the air, the ability to use his tongue to swallow and spit out enemies, and the ability to give other characters a ride, while Nabbit goes full hack mode and doesn't flinch or get knocked back by anything, although neither the Yoshis or Nabbit can use power-ups. Speaking of, the ones in this game are pretty neat. The Fire Flower is the only one returning from older games, besides the mushroom I guess. And the Fire Flower remains a simple projectile, but everything else has a bit more going on. The elephant, it's not bad. The massive size occasionally sees use as an obstacle to getting through tight spots, the trunk is a short-range melee attack that can bat off enemies or destroy blocks, and after touching water, the melee attack temporarily launches water, which is used to put out fire or lava in a few small segments, as well as to grow plants, which usually give some small amount of coins. However, it's definitely the new ability with the least going on. The Drill Shroom gives Mario and friends a few new abilities. For one, they have passive head protection, which is... a lot of levels have the ability to have enemies from above, but it's pretty situational. Cooler though is that the drill can be used to burrow into the ground or ceilings to move around, pop up underneath enemies, or even scoot through narrow passages. Meanwhile, the Bubble Flower is real powerful and real fun. Its bubbles fly straight forward, even through walls, and capture enemies, which is neat, but the real gold is that the bubbles can be bounced off of. It's versatile, it's slick, and it's real fun to break the game with, and really, all these abilities have a good bit going on that makes them fun to mess with, varied and powerful, while still remaining very simple. The game does have full 4-player co-op, although in a variety of ways, it's better and worse than New Soup's, sometimes in the same ways. The utter chaos of New Soup is trimmed heavily. No more bouncing off allies' heads, no more picking up and throwing around your pals. It makes the game much smoother and focused on, properly engaging with the game. But also, sometimes the sheer unbridled chaos of New Soup was fun, and it allowed for some really wacky strategies. However, the lack of this mess also introduces new, more creative griefing into the mix. A badly timed or perhaps well-timed bubble can launch a teammate up into the sky, various hazards can be set off against your ally, like the platforms that flip themselves over when jumped on X amount of times, and a new enemy type that jumps whenever the player does. The possibilities are there, they just require a bit more effort. It does get a little frustrating to play with others at times though. The game is relatively speedy, so it's not uncommon to get left behind in the heat of the moment, and it can be kinda hard to catch back up in the 5 seconds before losing a life, and get up to speed when possible, especially when you're as dumb as me and my brother, although I had a lot of fun in co-op because of all this. The overworld is kinda like Mario 3D Worlds, small top-down areas that offer a variety of levels to choose from, which award Wonder Seeds when completed. Primary levels contain 2 seeds, one for just clearing the level and one for getting the Wonder Seed, although there are a couple with 3 if they have a secret exit, while the smaller levels each give 1. These are all smaller bite-sized challenges, such as the badge challenges, which force using a specific badge in a short mission to introduce and unlock it, Wiggler races, which are short races against an AI Wiggler, break times, which are more relaxed bite-sized levels that are more exploratory and laid back, with few or no enemies, and KO arenas, which are little timed combat sections and are probably the least interesting of the few, although all the bite-sized missions are pretty enjoyable little distractions. Progress is gated by Wonder Seeds, much like Mario 3D World as well. Low enough amounts to skip stuff you ain't into, but high enough amounts to force you to engage with the weirder stuff occasionally. But also satisfying to get, as most levels in this game are pretty fucking good. To touch on badges, they're probably the coolest new element to played. Borrowed from the Mario RPGs, badges are equipable modifiers that usually give a beneficial effect, with a handful of hard mode ones for people who want a challenge. Orange badges give the characters extra moves. The parachute cap slows falls and gives some extra horizontal movement. The boosting spin jump effectively gives the players a second full jump in midair, which is crazy fun and strong. The crouching high jump works like Mario 2's power jump, where you have to crouch and then you jump really high, and so on. Blue badges give more passive bonuses. Enemies drop more coins, all power-ups are treated as X power-up if there's only one power-up you want or like for a stage, a one-time safety bounce to save you from pits, and they're all useful in certain levels, but a lot less freeform than the orange badges. And the yellow badges all make the game harder. Jet Run makes Mario constantly run forward, but he can jump out of the air like Donkey Kong Country's Coyote Time. Spring Feet makes the player bounce constantly, and Invisibility makes the character hard to see. They're neat gimmicks for their badge challenges, and seeing people crush levels while being stuck with them is kinda neat, but certainly it's not my thing. There's so much to love in Mario Wonder. It's got a good bit of everything, badges and new power-ups mix up the core gameplay, while still maintaining the good old bing bang wahoo. It's fast-paced, it has huge level variety in small bursts and in larger levels. Hell, even the bosses are pretty good for this series anyway. And that's an odd rarity for Mario. Mario Wonder definitely has an odd style. At first I kinda found it off, but admittedly it's kinda grown on me. Coming off a new soup, which looked very clean and stock arty, anything would be a relief, but the sorta heavily shaded, almost clay-looking models, paired with the increased expressiveness in the animations and the very keyframe-focused animation, with big poses that hang a little longer, kinda works for me. It doesn't hurt that the game has so much visual variety in stages. The game hits some familiar world themes with its worlds. A beach world, a grassy first world, fluffy clouds, desert, lava worlds, but these get squeezed for a lot of variety. The grass world transitions into a sort of savanna plateau with more arid trees and large charging rhino enemies. The clouds have some dark and stormy levels, and the cubic golden showers world and the mushroom mines are pretty out there. And all that comes before the wonder effects, which kinda go all over the place. Silhouette levels like Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, bouncing on rainbow bubbles, journeys through space, odd and goofy transformations like Slime Mario, Goomba Mario, even becoming a giant deflating platform. The game is pretty relentless and always giving you something new to look at, in a good way. The one disappointment is the music. Mario typically gets the good stuff, but most of what this game has just never really clicked or stuck out to me. It's not to say it's bad, but outside of the Wonderflower music, which is a fun, wacky little song that you will eventually get a little tired of, nothing really stuck out to me. I can't really remember much of the music outside of the kinda obnoxious, kinda fun, kinda goofy singing Piranha Plant song and Bowser's Final Battle, which is notable for its ties to the gameplay rather than for how much it springs to my mind like anything in Super Mario World does, which is at least a little bit disappointing. Mario's new voice is fine, honestly. I didn't notice too much. It's a tiny bit different, but not jarringly so. I really don't have that much to say about it because Mario says like 4 words a game, so. The talking flowers are also kind of notable. I think they're mostly there to encourage younger kids. They often give you kind of like affirmations or like, don't give up, keep going. And the voice is a bit annoying, but I do think they have enough genuinely fun interactions and lines to make it kind of worth it to pay attention to them. There'll be occasionally really goofy little bits where they'll fall into pits or get crushed or die, and it's funny. Mario Wonder is still pretty new, and a lot of the fun is being surprised, but I want to briefly highlight some levels I found especially fun or interesting, maybe 1 or 2 per worlds. For World 1, Pipe Rock Plateaus, easy standouts are its 2 Bull Rush stages. In each, the Wonderflower makes these rhinos stampede. It's kinda like one of those Bone Dragon auto-scrollers Mario World and New Soup threw around, but they kinda start out at max speed. It's also notable that Bowser Jr., the only boss until the final one, is actually pretty good in this game. Not just here, but throughout the game, using wonder effects to mess with the stage in a variety of ways that make his otherwise typical boss fights, dodging his shell attacks until he pops out, kind of exciting. Fluff Puff Peaks has the first top-down wonder effects. These are definitely a low point for how limiting and slow they are, although I can't say I wasn't surprised. The Puffy Lift level is the exact opposite though. Mario becomes a platform that compresses as soon as it's stood on, and needs to carefully manage enemies that land on top of him to keep from evaporating. It's silly, a little easy, but frankly about half the Wonder Flowers are fun gimmicks that make the level easier, while about half of them are actual challenges. The linking lifts level also deserves a bit of a nod for having a fun gimmick before its Wonder Flower. That being that the linking lifts need to be hit in the environment. They act kind of like blocks and then add themselves onto the lift, and periodically the one at the back of the row is dropped off. You have to keep hitting new ones to refresh the platform as you go through an auto-scroller, which I think is pretty cool. And of course, the castle has the first of the extremely nice looking silhouette levels, which I love visually, even the ones that aren't as exciting to play through. Shining Falls is structured a touch different, framing each level as a challenge from a hyper-competitive poplin and lacks a castle. And for that, they kind of go all out on weird and wild ideas. Hoppycats jump when the player does, and it makes them a force of all-out chaos in multiplayer. And they get so large during the Wonder Flower sequence that they can be used to smash through ceilings and walls. It's fun, tense, requires some thought, and it gets even more wild in a later level when Mario actually becomes one. Sunbaked Desert Standout is a fun little level where jumping to the rhythm of the song moves platforms in advantageous ways. And while it's not like Rayman Legends when it was going all out on its music levels, it's a fun little musical segment, more so than most in this game, while multiple other levels in the area play with speeding up or slowing down the game, sometimes alternatingly, which is a nice simple little twist to add or remove challenge. Fungi Mines has a Halloween level. It doesn't need anything else really to make me happy, but the quiz show Ghost House and the level it calls back to Galaxy, where a shadowy Mario clone chases the player and follows all their movements exactly, don't hurt either. Pretty much every level in the Fungi Mines has an amazing gimmick to it. Deep Magma Bog has two gimmicks I absolutely love. The hot stones that can be cooled off with water, and the dragons. They oddly remind me of the ultimate mixed bag of Mario Yoshi's story, where they kind of like fly around in circles and try to throw you off with loops, and the challenge is staying on top of them. I don't know if it's an intentional reference to that, it very well could be, but it's worth noting that even at this point, the game isn't very hard. But the game doesn't really shove itself above a pretty medium difficulty until the frankly silly bonus world, which may be a disappointment for some, although I think the game is pretty fun despite that. Petal Island serves as a sort of interlude world that connects all the others together and features a small handful of levels, mostly, unfortunately, underwater ones. But Bowser's Castle is also placed here at the end of the game with some neat challenges, culminating in a very, very fun final stage that utilizes almost every wonder effect in the game in one massive, glorious mishmash. And honestly, why not? Ideas come and go so fast that giving everything a time to shine one last time feels great. And the fact that the Bowser fight is actually good, which is an extremely rare feat that Mario's achieved maybe 2 other times, is kind of just icing on the cake. The special world unlocked via secret exits in each world is questionable. Not for lack of trying, I don't mind hard levels, but a good chunk of the special world is hard auto-scrollers. Stuff like the advanced version of the Piranha Plant musical, the extremely precise disappearing platform wall jump course, which has kind of become infamous online as very, very frustrating. The wonky top-down level, they're all a bit much and tip towards frustrating more so than fun and creative, especially since most of the gimmicks are just reused gimmicks from earlier that are made way more frustrating. No complaints about the grand finale though, which like Bowser's Castle is a mishmash of wonder effects that perfectly send off all the weird and wonderful ideas that the game brings together. I know this video is a little short, but Mario Wonder is the perfect answer to where do you take 2D Mario after New Soup. It would have been easy to say Mario Maker was cool, but look at New Soup 5, it has 2 new power-ups. But Mario Wonder wants to, and tries very hard to break the New Soup curse of being very, very safe by constantly throwing new ideas at the wall. A majority of these ideas actually stick, whether it's fun gimmick transformations, weird set pieces, or just simple twists on the core gameplay. There's a few duds, namely the top-down ones and a few of the auto-scrollers, but largely it's a joy to enter level, get halfway through, and find out what's gonna happen. It delights in surprising you, and it's a delight when it does. Mario Wonder is simple fun, it's the same great 2D Mario as always, but with the real strong shot of creativity and, I suppose you could say, wonder that the 2D games haven't exactly been swimming in lately, even in the games that I like. It's exciting to be excited about Mario again. Wonder is great, simply, surprisingly wonderful.